Now today is a very sad day as this is the last order from AliExpress. Hey everyone and welcome back to the network where today we are taking our final look at some console mods and accessories from AliExpress. Now because of the current state of the economy and the US and China, it is just not sustainable to keep ordering this sort of stuff from AliExpress, unfortunately. So until something gets done about that, this is going to be the final episode. Well, hello there. Fancy meeting you out here. We're pretty much in this environment because those were some hot takes that were just said in the video, and they need a little bit of correction. So the intro and unboxings for this video were filmed shortly after the previous AliExpress video. You know, the point when the China tariffs were still 180%, but since then they've dropped down to about 30%, and then as of Wednesday of this week were completely just kind of abolished by the US courts. So yeah, AliExpress reign on, I guess. So currently I don't have anything ordered, but rest assured our AliExpress adventures will continue. So if you guys have anything on that website that you'd like us to take a look at, be sure to leave it down in the comments, or you could head over to our Discord. That way you could probably actually post a link to whatever item it is you want us to take a look at, because here on YouTube they're probably going to block it because, it's a link. But yeah, with that little addendum out of the way, let's head back to the video, shall we? I'm stuck in my chair. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you all for the support on these videos, because when this thing sort of started, I was just looking at stuff on AliExpress and questioning how cheap it was and figured, you know what, why don't I order that stuff so that you guys don't have to? So without any further introduction, let's take a look at what we have in the bag. Now, as always, I will have the links down in the description to the AliExpress listings for the items showcased in these videos in case you want to pick them up for yourself, along with a little number up here for how much I paid for these at the time of ordering, which I'm sure is very different by now. But we have in this one another one of those generic thank you cards for 5 stars. I bet you can buy these off of AliExpress, and that's why they keep coming in the AliExpress orders. But anywho, this can just go right over there. And we have a BitFun PS2 FreeMCBoot Memory Card. Now, this one actually is different to the FreeMCBoot Memory Card that we looked at previously on here, as if you can remember that video, I said that those FreeMCBoots are only for the fat model consoles, and if you wanted to run it on the later slims, like the 9000 models, you would actually need to set one up using Fortuna or Fortuna. Fortuna, Funtuna, they're interchangeable, and this is actually one of the memory cards that has Fortuna for the slim model of consoles. Now, I'm pretty sure that I can test this on the 7000 model of Slim, and it should work. I don't think there's any reason against that. Unfortunately, I don't own a 9000 model that I can check this on, and I don't know anyone that has a 9000 model, so we can pop this in to my 7000 model Slim, see if it boots FreeMCBoot, and if it does, then, we're all good to go, and we can see what sort of apps come preloaded on there. It's nice that it's a 64 megabyte card as well, instead of the standard 8, so you can actually save some games on here, along with, running your FreeMCBoot. Again, I really do like the BitFun sort of packaging where you can pop the card in and out and use it as storage instead of it just getting thrown away. But with that little tandem aside, let's go on and connect this thing to my Slim console and see if we can boot into FreeMCBoot. Alright, so now I have the PS2 all set up here so that we can take a look at our PS2 FreeMCBoot card running Funtuna or Fortuna for the Slim model of PS2. Now, I'm actually using a PS2 7000 model, I believe is the denomination of it, and FreeMCBoot, like normal FreeMCBoot, will work on these. I'm pretty sure that Fortuna will also work, but this is primarily designed for like the 9000 model of consoles, where the normal FreeMCBoot will not work on that at all, and you have to use the Fortuna method. So to get this thing up and running, it's actually super easy. All we have to do is take our memory card and just slot it into one of the memory card slots on our console, at which point we just turn it on, and if everything works, it should boot us into FreeMCBoot, but we shall see. So we have the Sony Computer Entertainment, and it just loads into the normal file browser. Okay, so either this is an issue with the memory card, or it's a problem with me trying to run this on a 7000 model PS2 Slim. Just to see if it's not the memory card, we'll navigate into the browser, and if we do see a memory card here, then we know that everything should in theory be working. If we click on this, we have corrupted data. Nice. And then we have open PS2 loader. I'm wondering if that corrupted data is not the Fortuna install that was performed on this card. That would actually be kind of funny, because when you have one of these modded things on the memory card, it should just load up like here with Open PS2 Loader, where it just says OPL, 10th anniversary, and you can see it and click on it. And you know that it's modded because that's not a thing that was, stock with the PS2. But yeah, the fact that this one's reading as corrupted data, I'm assuming that the install for Fortuna actually kind of failed on this memory card, which is kind of funny. And that could have been a number of things. Either the install was bad, could just be that this memory card decided it wanted to corrupt the data, because that is a thing that will happen with a lot of these aftermarket memory cards, and why it is strongly recommended to use OEM ones and not these when you're trying to, do anything with your consoles. Now, unfortunately, it is a shame that this memory card did not work in booting us into FreeMCBoots. So I guess just a word of caution if you're going to order one of these things off of AliExpress that, they're going to come on these cheapo memory cards, and the chances of corrupted data are pretty high. But with that, we'll head on back to the table and we'll take a look at our next item. Now, if you thought that one PS2 memory card isn't enough, we actually have two. This one is a 256 megabyte memory card, and I got this because, typically you're not supposed to use third-party cards because their reliability is kind of meh when it comes to keeping your valuable saves, actually safe. But I figured let's go on and purchase one of these no-name memory cards in the highest capacity they have, and then just kind of see how it functions. And right off the bat, you can see that there is a switch on here for 128 megabytes and 128 megabytes. Because the PS2, I guess the memory card slots could only read 128 megabytes, they split the 256 into two different memory banks, and you have a switch to switch between the two. Kind of similar to some of the memory cards that you've seen on maybe like the GameCube, I believe, has ones like that. Potentially the PS1, if I'm remembering correctly. And of course, they put the freaking stickers like right on the instructions for this thing. So that's absolutely great. Okay, get it out of there. Here is the memory card itself. And we have a better look at the little switch there that you can use to select the different memory banks. It is a super tiny switch, but it does feel pretty good. And then above that, there's actually just a sticker right here that shows the different memory banks, and yeah, it's pretty much just a memory card. So what we'll go ahead and do is plug this into the PS2. We'll try saving a game to one of the memory banks and then unplug it, plug it back in, and see if it shows up. And then we'll also try swapping memory banks and see kind of what happens with that. And I don't know if you're not supposed to do this while the console's on, because unfortunately our stuff was covered with stupid stickers. But yeah, let's head over to the PS2 and test this thing out. Okay, so we still have our PS2 set up from when we took a look at the Fortuna card, but now we have our 256 megabyte memory card with our two different caches. So to test this thing out, we will set the switch to the 128 megabytes on the right, and we will connect it into our PS2 and see if it does, in fact, recognize the memory card. And we have glowing. So it does recognize the memory card, and it is displaying as 129 kilobytes of space, actually. So you have a little bit of extra juice on your memory card. And then if we unplug it and then swap it over to the other memory bank on the right side and plug it back in, we should have yet another 128-ish megabytes of space. So we'll just click on this, and yeah, another 129. So to actually test this out and make sure that we're not being scammed, essentially that there are in fact two different memory banks and this isn't just a fun switch to, have a fun switch, I do have a copy of Mojo here, where hopefully we will be able to save to one of the memory banks on here. We'll take the card out, we'll switch memory banks, and then see either if the save persists, which means it's just, one save bank, or if the other memory card is blank, then, we know that there are actually two save banks, and then, we'll switch it back and we'll test it all. We'll see if this thing is fully working. But in the meantime, I will go on and load up Mojo and create a save. And hopefully I don't have to progress too far into the game to actually get a save made. Okay, so it looks like we finally hit a point where we can save in Mojo. We will test saving to the memory card. Looks like the save was successful, so we'll go on and press continue. And then we will quit out of this game. Nope, we'll not retry. We will quit out of this game. There we go. And then we'll just reset the console real quick and see if our save persists on the memory card. All right, so now if we head on into the browser, we should see our memory card, and it should have a Mojo save on it. No, now the switch is still set to the right memory bank, so this is the side that has our Mojo save on it, or at least should, which it does. We have our system configuration and two saves from Mojo, so that's good. Now, if we take this memory card out real quick, and then we switch it over to the left bank and put it back in, will we still see those saves? Or will it be empty? Okay, so the memory card booted up, that's good. We'll click on that, and the memory card is empty. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, and then the last thing to check is to make sure that our save is retained if we switch banks. So we will take it out again, switch it back over to our right bank, and then hopefully, once the memory card loads up, we should see our Mojo saves, which we do. So that is pretty cool that this memory card does indeed save, and it has a lot of space on it, because 128 megabytes, that's a decent chunk of storage on here. You know, the only downside to a device such as this is the fact that it's a third-party card, and we don't know what's going on the inside of this. Like, are the chips good? You know, what type of aftermarket things are going on in here? So unfortunately, the longevity of this card, we don't really know. But at least to have a memory card where you can put a lot of saves on it, or, you know, sort of disposable saves, this is not the worst thing to grab. Just note that the life for one of these memory cards and the rates for file corruption are pretty high. So if you're going to pick one of these up, just keep that in mind. But other than that, it's a pretty good device. So with that being said, we'll head back to the table and we'll take a look at our next item. All right, and next up we have another large package that we can take a fancy little look at, and this one is a really big black brick. Pretty nice, pretty nice. No, actually, in fact, I believe this is a wireless Wii Sensor Bar, which it does appear to be that. So it looks like it comes with another one of those cheapo stands that literally does nothing, although this time you don't have a hook for a cable because there is no cable. Let's see how well this one sticks to the stand. Actually, let me put the stand, well, no, the stand, so wait a minute, what? Okay, so there's holes in here for, it's keyed for you to put the stand in there. It wants you to put it in like this, but then this bar is on the wrong side. You'd think that bar would be on the back, but no, it's on the front. And not only that, it also sits crooked. You can't really tell from this angle, but instead of it being like perfectly horizontal, it's kind of like that, just a little bit, because one of these little pegs it does not fit in. So that's great, and that almost felt like I broke it. And then there is a battery holder over here, which it takes... Holy cow, this thing takes, what, 4 AAA batteries? Jesus, why does it need 4 AAAs? It's only like a couple infrared lights it's powering. It could just be like a AA, maybe 2. 3 volts should be enough. But let me go and grab some batteries and then we'll pop them in here and see if this thing actually works. Okay, so now I have some lovely AAA batteries that we can put into this thing, and then we can give it a test. Now, these wireless sensor bars are something that kind of popped up a lot during the Wii era, and for the Wii U, they actually had, like, Nintendo released an official Wii U Sensor Bar that was wireless, and I came across one of those the other day for $8, and I was like, should I get it? And ultimately I didn't, and now I'm thinking, yeah, I really should have got that, because it would have been nice to have an OEM one, and I think that one only ran off of 2 AA batteries, so it's weird again why this one needs so many AAAs, but we now have our batteries in there. Let's click the button and see if it turns on. We do in fact have a little red LED there signifying that it is on, and then on camera you can see faintly there are 3 little purple dots on both sides of these. These are completely invisible in person because it is shooting an infrared light, but because there is a camera here, you can actually see them. Now, I believe the official ones have like 5 LEDs, and these look to only have 3 on either side, so hopefully it tracks all right with it missing 4 technically LEDs on both sides, but we will definitely figure that out in the next section when we go over to the Wii and test this thing out. Okay, so now we are over at our Wii, which is already turned on so that we can test out our wireless sensor bar here. Now, I don't currently have any sensor bar or anything hooked up to this Wii, so if I try to use the Wii remote, you know, it's not going to do anything. So we'll set our wireless sensor bar right on top of the PS2 if it decides it wants to balance there, which it does, and then we can test out our sensor bar here and see if it works. So the sensor bar does appear to be working. It feels okay in order to navigate the Wii menu. If we head into the Wii settings, we should be able to pull up like a little infrared camera view so then we can kind of see what the Wii remote is seeing. Let me just see if I can find that option real quick. Okay, so here we are in the sensitivity menu, and you can kind of see that each one of these dots corresponds to one side of the sensor bar and grouping of LEDs. As we can see, they seem to be pretty normal, although sometimes it is registering slightly different. I'm not really sure what is causing that. For the most part, the tracking seems to be okay with this wireless sensor bar. Really, the only question is, how long does this thing actually last, only running off of, what, 4 AAA batteries? But unfortunately, I don't have the time to test that application of it, so you know, only time will tell. But that's pretty much it for this wireless sensor bar, so with that, we will take a look at our next item. Now, if you thought we were done with the PS2, the joke's on you, as we have a PS2 to HDMI adapter. Now, in case you saw, let's see, I believe it was 2 episodes ago, we tried ordering this from AliExpress before, and on the bag it said it was a PS2 to HDMI adapter. However, it was just a converter for like SD cards and stuff, so I don't know what happened there, but I decided to try ordering it again, and it looks like this time we actually got what we paid for. So it came with a HDMI cable, which is pretty nice. Can never go wrong with having, you know, too many HDMI cables. It looks like this is maybe 3 feet or something along the lines of that. Not the longest HDMI cable, but, you know, an HDMI cable nonetheless. Definitely can give it a little bit of use. We'll just put that off to the side while we shift our attention over to the adapter itself. So this is kind of like a clone of the Wii to HDMI adapters and that N64 to HDMI adapter we took a look at. They all kind of have similar housings, I guess, which is funny. Like this one even has like an audio out jack, which is funny. This is literally the Wii to HDMI adapter, but with a PS2 connector on the side. So then we also have the world's smallest USB cable. This thing's probably like under a foot, maybe like 9 inches or so. Super tiny. And then it actually came with directions, so that's kind of neat. Okay, so if you want to take a look at the rest of these, I'm just going to go ahead and flip through it so you guys can pause and take a look at these directions in case you were interested in knowing what this thing entails. But with that out of the way, let's connect this up to the PS2 and then see what the video quality out of this looks like. Okay, so I have the PS2 Slim all set up right here so that we can take a look at our PS2 to HDMI adapter. And so if you've never used like any of the PS2 to HDMI adapters, typically they require external power in order for them to actually, you know, output video. The good news is the PS2 does come with integrated USB ports that you can use to power the device. So that just makes everything well contained inside of the PS2 ecosystem itself. So we'll go ahead and connect the USB for power, and then we will plug our adapter into the video out port on the PS2, and it does fit rather flush, which is nice. Then we'll take the other side and we'll plug it into one of the 2 available USB ports on the front of the console right here. If we can get a good angle, there we go. So I'll plug this into the left one just for fun. Not that big of an issue depending on which port you plug it into. Now, in order to get the best video out for these devices, you'll have to go into your PS2 settings and then switch it from composite to component, which is YPBPR, I believe, if I'm remembering the acronym. And then you'll have really clear colors and contrast through this HDMI adapter. Otherwise, you'll just have kind of muddy, gross looking things. So with our PS2 officially on life support, let's turn it on and see if we get any video out. And we indeed do, which it looks to be pretty crisp, if I do say so myself. If we head on down into the system configuration, we can see that I believe this PS2 is already set up to use YPBPR. Let's just double check that real quick. So it is already set up to use components, so that's why we're getting the good crispy video out. But if you weren't, you know, already set to that, you could just head to this section of the system configuration and then just hit the cross button to enter, and then you can set it to YCB, PBR, CR, PR, you know, that whole thing, pretty much the component side of things. If you switch it to RGB, you won't have any video out because RGB is something that was only really used in Europe, so that's pretty much that. I would say that, yeah, this HDMI adapter actually works pretty good. I would say it's pretty comparable to a lot of the ones you can get off of Amazon. Now, even though this is a solution to add an HDMI port to your PS2, this isn't really an HD solution, as the output from here is still 480i/480p. It's just the fact that it can display on your modern TVs using a more modern connection type versus, you know, the old composite cables that TVs don't even really come with anymore. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the PS2 to HDMI adapter. I'm glad this time we actually got the adapter instead of like a micro SD card adapter that we got when we tried ordering this previously. But anyway, I digress, and with that, we'll head on back to the table and take a look at our final item. Now, last but not least, we have our final item from AliExpress, and it just so happens to be in a different type of packaging than we're used to. It's this weird trash bag feeling material. So either that's like a good thing or a bad thing, given that this is the final item we're going to be taking a look at. And if we can get it out of there, it really does not want to come out of here either. Come on, get out. There we go. We have a pretty standard white box, which contrasts very well with my white background. Everything is just kind of different in this package. Normally it's just like black on, or gray, or it's like kind of white on black, but no, this one's the other way around. Oh, and it's actually in its own box in the box. Nice. All right, now we have the Super, and then the DS logo for some reason, card. And this thing also has the DS logo and mini SD. And then, oh, the picture is actually glossy. I don't know if you can tell that on camera. Yeah, there you go. See, like, only that picture is glossy. The rest of this packaging is matte. Then it says compatible with GBA, SP, GBM, whatever the GBM is. Oh, Game Boy Micro. Supported OS, Windows 9X, ME 2000, and XP. Well, unfortunately, I'm running Windows 10, so I guess I'm not on a supported system. And then on the back, we have a little bit of introduction. In case you want to read that, I'll go ahead and pause for a minute so that you can check out what type of English this thing has listed. Opening it up, we have a little plastic tray, and that seems to be pretty much it. No instructions past what's written here on the back of the box, so that's good. Then we have a micro SD to USB adapter, and it comes in this nice purple. I kind of like how they're keeping the purple motif, because I'm pretty sure I didn't order a purple one, but I don't really mind. Then we have the Super Card SD, and this label is incredibly dark. Like, in person, I can barely see anything. The camera, it's a little better. And as a matter of fact, it looks almost like it's not even like inset properly. You can tell that it's like lifting up off of the housing. So that's great. That's a really good sign on the quality of this thing. It does come included with the micro SD card. It is a 2GB SD card, so that is nice. Again, it's a no-name brand, as with most of these AliExpress flash carts. You just get the unknown micro standard generic SD cards. We'll pop that thing back in here. Oh, I actually just lost the SD card. Oh, never mind, we're good. So I missed the SD card slot and it slid through that gap in the front. I thought it was gonna get stuck in there. That would have been really kind of funny, I'm not even gonna lie. But now that we have this thing together, let me grab a console that I don't really care about, and we'll plug this thing in and see what comes installed on it and if it even works. Now, to test this wonderfully constructed flash card, I have an original model Nintendo DS that does seem to have a few little issues here up on the screen. Also, we have a Delta promotion. We don't need that. Get out of here. We do have a few issues on the top screen, which you can definitely see when we go to turn it on, that there is just a little bit of crystal decay in here, so this definitely needs a repair at some point. All right, so now that we have our Nintendo DS set up to use the bottom screen for Game Boy Advance games, we can actually test out our flash card. Now, assuming that it works on this, it should also work on an official Game Boy Advance. So we'll just plug that in. Okay, apparently plugging it in causes the DS to restart, and it does show that there is a GBA game, so that's good. I don't know why it restarted. Maybe that's a normal thing with the DS and then trying to insert a Game Boy Advance game, but I digress. Let's start this thing up and see what type of UI we get. That's a pretty simple one. So we have list, we have saver, it looks like, options, help, and that's pretty much it. So on the help page, what do we have? It says press L, R, A, and start to enter the cheats. Okay, I have no idea what any of that means. And this thing, again, did not come with any instructions other than what's listed here. So unfortunately, I'm not 100% with that. So we might just skip that. You can enable set emulator settings and auto load saver. Okay, here's the saver. So it looks like we have some save files in here for Sonic Advance, Metroid Zero Mission, Metal Slug Advance. Okay, and then we have our list. Test NES GBA app. Let's see what test does. Okay, so we have Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, I'm guessing, and then whatever these two things are. I don't even know, to be honest. That's kind of weird. So if we boot the Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, it looks like we're getting a screen with the progress for it writing the ROM to, my guess, one of the chips on the flash cards. And then it seems to load up just fine. Okay, so it looks like this is normal. We have Peter apparently here for the Minish Cap. I don't know who Peter is. I don't know how we actually return to the menu. If it was like one of these things, A, and then if we hit LRA and start, does that do anything? No. It doesn't. Okay, so we'll just do the tried and true method of power cycling the system in order to get back to the menu to select the games. So I'm not really sure what that test thing is. Maybe it's something for when they make the SD card that they can test to verify that all the formatting and stuff is correct so that it actually, you know, functions, I guess. Then we have NES. So are these VR6? So that's like one of the sound chips. And then there's a whole bunch of Japanese or Chinese, it looks like. And then we have some games. Gradius 3, Battletoads. This must be Battletoads. Let's see if this thing boots up. A rare production. Okay, yeah, so this literally is playing Battletoads. You have got to be kidding me. Okay, that's actually pretty cool that this thing has an NES emulator in it. I would say that, yeah, this is a pretty good emulation of Battletoads to be playing on the Game Boy Advance. Albeit, you know, we're playing it on a DS here, but it's still works. I'm surprised. There's not a whole lot of NES ROMs that come included with this flash cart, which is, you know, somewhat unfortunate, but at least there's a couple on there and you could, you know, most likely add your own. But then we also have a GBA folder, which comes with a lot of .gba files. I don't know what any of those are. We have app. Okay, there's nothing in app. And then we have a few Game Boy Advance games, it looks like. So we have Sonic Advanced, we have Metroid, Metal Slug. Okay, so this thing actually doesn't come with a whole lot of games preloaded on it. It looks like maybe there's 50 in total, including like all the other directories we have. So we'll just try launching, I guess, Metroid Zero Mission and see if everything, you know, appears to work there. So yeah, here we go. We have Metroid Zero Mission. I'm gonna try just to see if we can open the cheat menu or anything. Is this something that you just have to do before you load in, I guess? Again, I don't know, because quite frankly, this thing didn't come with any directions as to how this flash cart works, which is kind of unfortunate because sure, you have the little list of directions and one of them literally said, you know, LRA and then start, but none of that seems to be doing anything. So yeah, here we are in Metroid Zero Mission. It seems to be loading up just fine, so that's good to see. But yeah, it seems to be playing Metroid Zero Mission just fine. So, I mean, if you want an affordable, like really cheap flash cart, I guess you could go with the Super Card SD. Again, the build quality of this thing is just kind of crap. It's like it's the cheapest plastic known to mankind. I really do not trust this in a system, and I'll be honest, when this thing power cycled after I plugged it in, I kind of panicked just a little bit. Like, oh, did this just kill my DS? Like, what the hell? Yeah, I mean, if this is something that you're interested in and you're not really too concerned with the longevity of your systems, I guess you could get one of these and then, in theory, add a bunch of other games. And because it has a, a real-time save feature on there, you should be able to play the Pokemon games and stuff. But yeah, with that, we'll head back over to the table and we'll wrap this video up. So overall, this was a pretty decent haul from AliExpress. Most of the things worked as intended, aside from that thing right there. If you are, again, interested in picking up any of these devices for yourselves, I'll have links down in the description to their AliExpress pages so that you can order any of this cheap crap, as it has now become cheap once again. So in conclusion, be mindful of what you are ordering from this website, whereas a lot of the products on there don't seem to have, you know, quality assurance done in terms of their testing. Case in point, this FreeMCBoot memory card that just did not work. So that's normally how, you know, a lot of these direct from China sites operate, is that they kind of skip on the QA side of things so that they can get it to you, and then, you know, they can charge you less because they don't have to pay people to test it. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, remember to drop a like and make that subscribe button glow so that you don't miss any future content. And if you have any suggestions for future things that you want us to take a look at, whether it be on AliExpress, Temu, or even Wish, be sure to leave those down in the comments or pitch at our official Discord server. Link again will be down below in the description. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.